Hey guys, we have another project coming today to us. So this is a 1972 TR6. It just got dropped off with CAA because it doesn't drive. So I got contacted by the owner and he told me that the car is not running great. It is actually starting, but it doesn't idle. It idles at 200, 300 RPM, and then of course it dies. As soon as you touch the gas pedal, it just dies. So he had to CAA it to me, and we're gonna have to make it work again. He's done some work on it already. He replaced the battery, the plugs, they're black with carbon right now. Points, condenser, rotor, cap, fuel pump, fuel filter, fuel line, and coil. That's what he's done so far, but the problem is still there. I've already checked some things under the bonnet, and let me show you what I've found out already. I checked the oil and look what I found. It is up to here. I don't know if you see, but it is like an inch and a quarter maybe above the top mark. And can you smell it? Yeah, what does it smell like? It smells like gas. So you know what this means, right? So of course the first thing I checked was the fuel pump, and it is a new fuel pump anyways. So I called the owner and I asked him when was the fuel pump replaced, and he said last week. It was just recently, and 2 months ago he changed the oil. So I asked him when he changed the oil whether it was between the marks or to the top mark or whatever. He said it was to the top mark, and then he went for a drive, and after the drive he checked the oil again and it was above the mark already, a little bit, but above the mark. So he was surprised. So I asked him if he has the old fuel pump, and he said that yeah, he did take it apart even, and surprisingly the diaphragm was good. But something happened, so let me tell you what happens. Usually how it works, it has the diaphragm, and the diaphragm goes up and down, and it has two check valves, on one direction valves only. One opens only to let fuel in, the other one opens only to let fuel out. So when the diaphragm goes down, the vacuum opens the intake valve and it sucks fuel from the tank. When the diaphragm starts going out, it creates pressure, which closes the intake valve, and it opens the output valve and now pushes fuel towards the carburetors, and that continues happening all the time. However, if this diaphragm fails, the fuel that's on top starts leaking through the diaphragm at the bottom of the diaphragm. And even though on the stem of the diaphragm there's a seal, sometimes this seal goes bad, and this fuel that leaks through the diaphragm goes through the seal and goes through the bottom of the fuel pump inside the crankcase, and it fills your engine with fuel. Usually there is a hole at the bottom of the pump. If the diaphragm leaks, that fuel that goes under usually leaks out through that hole, and first of all it warns you that there's something wrong with the pump, and second, instead of building up inside and going into the oil, it just leaks out through this hole. However, somehow this happened, and if you remember years ago, if you've watched long enough, I was working on a 70 TR6 and it had the exact same problem. The oil was diluted with lots of fuel, but they kept driving it, and that diluted oil now didn't have the properties to lubricate properly, and the bearings got ruined and cylinders and all that. So that needed a lot of work, that car. We needed to rebuild the engine. So I asked the owner after he changed the oil whether he drove the car a lot, and he said no, it was just one drive, it wasn't very long. So hopefully that didn't damage the engine, but we will see. So that's our first thing that we need to do. First of all, he already changed the pump, it's a new pump, so it's safe now to change the oil, even though it was a new oil, but now we're gonna change it again. So we're gonna drain the oil, we're gonna replace it, and then we're gonna attempt to start the car, and we're gonna see what we're gonna do with everything. But yeah, hopefully the engine didn't get damaged by this diluted oil. Smells like gas big time, and it's so diluted. All right, we're gonna leave the plug off for now, and I even cracked the oil filter open. It's just the regular oil filter, TR6. It's not a spin-on oil filter, but it is cracked open, so it drips, and we're gonna let it drip as long as we can, so we can get rid of as much as possible from that oil. And in the meantime, I'm gonna start checking the ignition system. I'm gonna see how the points were installed, because I know that there are new points and new condenser and everything is new, but I want to make sure that everything is installed properly. Then we're gonna check the static timing, and once we know that the ignition system is in a good shape, we're gonna fill it up with oil, of course, and then we're gonna attempt to start it, and we're gonna see whether the carburetors need work or what's going on. All right, so I checked the points. They are installed properly. The gap is pretty good, and the distributor cap looks great inside. It's a brand new cap, obviously, so no damages, nothing. So now I'm checking the static timing, and I want to make sure that this is set properly, because sometimes what people do is they do the initial timing with a strobe light, which is not great for our cars, because sometimes the vacuum advance is already activated at idle. Also, the mechanical advance activates pretty early. I don't know why people believe that the mechanical advance doesn't kick in at idle. Yes, it does. It does kick in at idle, and I'll show you that later. Which means that when you're checking the timing with a strobe light at the pulley at idle, you're not checking your static timing. It is already advanced by the mechanical advance. So that's why I'd like to check the static timing with a test light. So what I have here is my test light, which is connected one side to the positive of the battery, and the probe is hooked up to the output of the distributors. So when the points are closed, I have ground here, which is the signal for the ignition coil. But when the points open, the ground disappears. So I have a green light here. So I don't know if you saw it earlier, but I'm gonna show you again. So right now the points are open, but I'm gonna turn the engine back a little bit. I'm just around top dead center. So you see, as I turn the engine back, the light came on because the points closed, but that was backwards. Now we're gonna turn it clockwise, the proper way. We're gonna do it slowly, and when the light comes off, this means that this is exactly when the points open. And there you go. So right here is where the points open, and now I can check on the pulley and see what this point is. And let me turn on the light actually. There you go. So I don't know how well you can see, but that is probably 2 or 3 degrees before top dead center. I think on TR6 the best, at least for my experience so far, the best static timing it's 6 to 10 before top dead center. Here we are at 2. So anyways, I'm not gonna touch it for now. That's how I'm gonna start it first, because I want to see what the symptoms are. But I have the feeling that the whole entire problem of this car was the oil, the diluted oil, which was also washing the walls of the cylinders, and it wasn't building up any compression. Hopefully there's not much of that left. Actually, when I was draining the oil, I hope you saw that initially it came very diluted and then it became black. So that makes me think that the fuel, I don't know that for a fact, but I think that the fuel the gasoline is heavier than the oil, and it goes at the bottom. So hopefully all the gasoline was in the sample already. I never tried to start it this morning, so it didn't get mixed up and sent through the engine again. So hopefully we drained it all. So I think that's what we're gonna do. The timing, I think it's a little bit retarded, but we're gonna touch it later. I'm just gonna measure the coil to make sure that this is the correct coil. This is, or it should be, and I'm pretty sure it is, a non-ballasted system. There's no resistance wire here, it's only one. So this should be a 3 ohm coil. I'm gonna double check it to make sure that it is the correct coil. And the spark plugs, that's what they look like. But I'm gonna clean them and I'm gonna put them back. I'm gonna fill up with oil and we're gonna attempt to start it, and we're gonna go from there. All right, so the filter is replaced. I just put oil. We use VR1 by Valvoline. 20W50, that's my preferred oil, and actually the owner said that he's using the same oil, so that's great. However, I don't want to just start cranking the engine now, because I'm worried that this diluted oil was all of it, absolutely all of it was drained into the oil pan, because it was like water, right? So now I'm assuming that all the oil passages, all the bearing surfaces, everything is totally dry or washed away, or at least the oil is washed away. Plus, this oil filter is a pretty bad design, so I can't pre-fill it with oil. So right now it's empty. And I'm afraid that if we start cranking the car, that's gonna create even more troubles than what we already have. I hope that we don't have any, but we don't wanna risk it. So what I'm gonna do, here's an example. Look at the oil filter that I took out. Like, it's barely dripping anything, where normal filters that I take out, usually they drip for hours and hours and hours, and as soon as you shake them a little bit, they leak even more. But now it sat like this for a while and it just drained completely. So that's why I'm thinking that the engine is now totally dry inside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the distributor out and I'm gonna prime the oil system manually with a drill, you know how we do it after we rebuild engines. So that's what I'm gonna do. We know the static timing, so we're gonna put it at the exact same position after, and we're gonna be able to put the distributor where it was before. Okay, see, not even a drip. So I'm gonna put it at top dead center, and I'll make sure that the gear inside is positioned properly. The drive gear, yep, it is. So this is the correct position of the drive gear. So that's how we're gonna position it after at top dead center, right? So now we have to take the pedestal out, take the gear out so we can spin the oil pump manually. Okay, so now we can take the gear out. We have to, as we're taking it out, we need to spin it counterclockwise, like this. I don't know if you see. Let me take a magnet actually. So as it comes out, it spins. That's because it is engaged with the camshaft. Come on now. So you see at the bottom, that's the part that engages with the oil pump. And it just happens that I have a similar thing like that, except here it has a 3/8" drive for a ratchet, because that used to be an extension, like a ratchet extension that I cut and I made this slot. So now in a drill I put 3/8 drive here and engage it like that, and put it inside the hole there and turn it until it engages with the oil pump. So now it is engaged with the oil pump. The slot of the driver fell into the stem of the oil pump. Now we have to start spinning it counterclockwise. So not clockwise, counterclockwise, because that's the way the oil pump spins, but it's gonna start puking oil. Let me try first, and if it starts puking oil from here, we're gonna put a rag or something. So let's see. I'm expecting that initially it's gonna spin freely, and then at some point you feel it when it starts pumping oil. So let's see. There you go. Now I have the clutch of the drill bit super light. Just gonna put it all the way tight. Let's see now. Okay. This way we're gonna make sure that the oil filter fills up and the gauge even should show. I can't see it, but you can. I don't think it goes too high, does it? Let me check the footage. You don't say anything, so I need to check myself. Oh, it's actually good. I checked the footage and it goes pretty high, so that's good because it tells us that the pump is able to build up good pressure. So I'm gonna keep doing that for another minute or two to make sure that we fill up all the oil passages and everything, and with fresh oil, not diluted one, and then we're gonna assemble it. Alright, so I don't know if you're gonna be able to see now what I'm doing here with the gear, but we still have the engine at top dead center, and the gear, when it is all the way down and the teeth are engaged with the camshaft and this slot is also engaged with the pump, this slot here needs to be offset towards the engine, and it needs to point to and 8 o'clock. That's the position in which we have to put it. But because these teeth here are diagonal, we need to actually position it like this, almost vertical or almost perpendicular to the engine. And then as it goes down and it engages with the camshaft, it spins a little bit and falls like this. But again, that's gonna engage it with the camshaft, but the pump doesn't necessarily engage. That means that once we engage it with the camshaft, we can start spinning the engine from the front, and as it spins, the oil pump is stationary and the gear turns, and at some point, as we're pressing the gear down, when they align, it goes cluck, and it disengages as well, and it spins relative to the camshaft a little bit more. Then we have to bring it back to top dead center and make sure that this slot is at 2 and 8 o'clock. You know what I mean? So that's how I'm gonna put it now, almost perpendicular to the engine. I'm sorry, I know it's hard to see, but okay. So you see, now it points 1 and 7 o'clock. I hope you can see that. So as I'm turning the engine and it engages with the oil pump as well and it drops down, it's gonna turn a little bit more and it's gonna go to 2 and 8. So I'm turning the engine now and I'm putting pressure on the gear down, and at some point it should fall. There you go, it went down now. And now if we go back to top dead center, so the slot is on this side and it's pointing to an 8 o'clock, and we are at top dead center here. Okay, so now I can install the distributor back. We're gonna make sure that the timing is still at 2 to 3 degrees where it was before. Not that I want it there, but that's how it was, and and I want to start from there. Okay, the distributor is installed back, and I'm assuming that it's pretty much the same spot because I removed it from this screw here, and I tried to put it in the same way, but just to make sure, we're gonna do the static timing test again. So right now the points are open already because we are at top dead center, right? So we're gonna turn it back a little bit, and there you go, the light came on, and now we're gonna turn it slowly clockwise, or the direction, the natural direction of rotation. It went too fast, so I'm gonna do it again. Okay, let's see what it shows now. Well, now we are actually more advanced. I put it a little bit more advanced. You know what? That's where I'm gonna leave it actually, because that's where I think it should be. That's 6 degrees before top dead center. That's where I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna play anymore with it. So now I'm gonna assemble it. I'm gonna double check the oil level now that we filled the filter and we spread oil all over the place. I'm gonna check the oil level. If I need to top it up, I'm gonna top it up. Install the spark plugs. I cleaned them. They're right here. And I cleaned them with my acetylene, not acetylene, this is map torch. I just heat them until all the carbon burns out. So I'm gonna double check the gap to make sure they are gapped properly. We're gonna install them and we're gonna attempt to start the car. I haven't measured the coil yet. I'm gonna do that now. Alright, everything is assembled. Distributor, coil, the wires are connected. I just tried to prime the fuel system, but I don't know if it is full or what, but I don't feel any resistance on the pump. So anyways, we're gonna crank it and we will see what's gonna happen now. Sounds like we don't have fuel. Okay, I just came on this side to see how the air valve operates, and it is super hard to lift actually. Like I'm having really hard time to lift that, and when I lifted it the first time it puked a lot of oil from here, you see. So this means it is overfilled, and it seems like this is pretty thick oil there. So I'm just gonna take out these for now, just to allow the air pump to go up and down easily. Okay, we will see, maybe later we're gonna replace the oil, but okay, now it goes up easy. Let's try that again. Sounds like she fired on 2 cylinders or something like that. Should we measure the compression? You know what, that's a good idea. Let's measure the compression and see what compression we have, because maybe, I don't want to think about it, but that fuel in the oil may have caused more damage than what we think. So okay, let's unplug them again. Okay. When I took the spark plugs out, all of them are wet, so they sucked some fuel. They started getting dry now, but all of them sucked some fuel, except number one. Number one is totally dry. So it either was the only one that started, or it doesn't have enough compression to suck fuel from the carbs. Okay, cylinder 1, full throttle. $135. It's not bad. Okay, Okay, so that's pretty good compression. So it was 135, 150, 135, 135, 145, and 142. So they're within a pretty good range. Between number one is a little bit less than the others, 135 compared to 150 on one of the cylinders. It's within 10% still, because 10% of 150 is 15. So it's not too bad, but it is what it is. It is pretty good compression, and I'm sure that's not what's preventing us from starting the car. So now I'm starting to think about vacuum leaks. I don't know if it still has the valve. Let me see. It doesn't have an anti-run-on valve, so I don't know. But sometimes with these canisters, they are also trouble. So I might unplug these from here and just plug them with something else. But it looks like we don't have fuel, because I don't see here on the filter, I don't see the fuel moving when I try to pump it, you know. And this is a brand new pump, so it should be good, but you never know, right? Anyway, you know what, I'm gonna plug this back in for now, and I'm gonna just pour some fuel straight into the carburetors, and we'll see if she's gonna start, at least for a few seconds. So I'm gonna lift the piston, I'm gonna put my straw inside past the piston, and now I'm gonna open the throttle and I'm gonna pour some fuel there. And now I'm gonna do the same with the other carb. I don't want to use starting fluid, you know, because it's ruining your cylinders and rings. Okay. I want to see if she's gonna start on 06 at least for a few seconds. Nope. Well, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the ignition timing back to where it was, to 2 degrees, whatever it was, and we will go from there. I just want her to start, so once it starts and it keeps running, then I can diagnose it. I can hook it up to my tool and diagnose it from there, but I just need her to start idling at whatever condition. Because now I'm thinking this car also has a vacuum retard, which is still hooked up. So maybe when it's idling, this retard is retarding it a little bit. So, well, that's gonna become even worse then. We are already retarded when we are at 2 degrees before top dead center. We want to be more. Oh, I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna try to put it back there. Right, the timing is now at 2 degrees before top dead center, as it was. Pinging, so let's play with the distributor. I'm just gonna adjust it by tier. It sounds really good, at least. No clunking, because I was expecting to hear a road knock or something. Thank God, nothing like that. think we should put her on the ground and go for a drive, and we can adjust the timing as we are driving it, because now I advanced it a lot. We can check later and see what the static timing looks like now, but it's advanced a lot more than before. I'm sure probably it's 8 to 10 degrees before top dead center. Anyway, I'm gonna put her on the ground and let's go for a drive. The spark plugs when it idles. See? Which is probably running super rich. It's pinging a lot. I'm gonna change the oil in the dashboards. Pretty sure the pumps, the air valves are not opening and closing properly. So we're gonna suck out whatever oil that is. And we're gonna fill it up with ATF. Dropped out completely, but what I noticed here is, look at that, the fuel filter is almost empty, so she's not sucking fuel. And I went to make sure that we have gas, and look what's inside. Okay, I don't know if you see that, but it looks to me like down there this is all rust, isn't it? I'm gonna try to move it with something. So this is all rust, and I'm sure that's what filled the gas line. So I'm gonna blow through it backwards and let's see what's gonna happen. Well, I actually disconnected the hose from the filter from here, and it started puking fuel from there. So obviously there's no restriction to it, because if there was a restriction it was just gonna come at a very slow rate, but it actually came really fast. So I plugged it back in because it was just coming by gravity feed, no problem. So next thing I'm gonna try this. I'm very suspicious about this pump, even though it's new, but it doesn't do anything. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unplug it from this side, and I'm gonna see if the fuel is gonna go through the filter on just by gravity. Okay, it puked a lot of fuel from there too, even though the air doesn't go away. I don't know why, but a lot of fuel came out of there too, to a point where it flooded my garage. So I took her out and I washed everything here with brake clean, and I put some kitty litter there to clean up. So the fuel line and the filter don't have any restriction. But how come when I pump the fuel pump, nothing happens? So what I'm thinking next, I brought here my electric fuel pump. I'm gonna unhook it from here. I'm gonna hook it to my pump, and the other end I'm gonna hook up there directly to the carbs, and we'll see if that's gonna do something better. Okay, so here we are. Actually, I have to unclamp this. Okay, here we are now. We have the fuel filter, my electric pump, and it goes straight into the carbs here. So let's plug it in. There we go. Now I heard it there already. Okay, let's try to start it. Dripping from here. I have the feeling that one of the carbs, the needle is stuck on the float, and it's just starving. Okay, as a last resource, I decided to eliminate the whole entire fuel supply on the other side of the engine, and I put my electric fuel pump into a jug with fuel and directly into the carburetors, and I still have the same problem. So fuel supply is not the problem, definitely. I also changed the spark plugs. I put my own set that I had here, used ones, but still the problem is the same. And these spark plugs, actually, these are the original ones from the car. They actually look pretty good after I drove it for like literally 5 minutes. So I'm happy with these. I'm gonna put them back. The problem is that even with another set of spark plugs, we have the same issue. And I even went so far that I took out the cups from underneath the carbs. Let me show you. These ones, do you see it? These ones, I took them out on both carbs to see if there was fuel in them, because I thought that maybe the needle was stuck for the float, but nope, they were both full. Like a huge amount of fuel came out of both of them when I pulled out the cups. So we know for a fact that we have enough fuel supplied to the carbs, to the float balls, but something is happening inside the carbs. Okay, I just took one of the carburetors apart to see if the float works well, and it was full. The bowl was full anyways, and it works just fine, no problem. A good amount of play on the shaft, but again, this is This carburetor is it's not like the TR4 carburetors that we just dealt with. This carburetor has seals here, so even with a little play, there shouldn't be such a big issue here to create a vacuum leak. It wouldn't prevent the car from starting. Whatever we're seeing here is not from a shaft play. Also, the diaphragm is in a good shape, and again, it's assembled properly. I always check that to make sure that this tab that is here, when it goes on the carbs, so the tab is here, when it goes here inside in this slot, there's two holes underneath. These two holes need to point towards the throttle at the back, so that's where the vacuum comes from. When you open the throttle, the vacuum sucks through these holes and removes all the air from this chamber above the diaphragm, and that's what lifts the piston up, because we create vacuum here. So these two holes need to be towards the throttle, and they are, so nothing wrong there. But look at this here. Pom pom pom. So lots of sediment here, like a sand. We can build a sand castle from that. And I don't know, so it is obviously from the gas tank I showed you earlier. Obviously the gas tank needs to be cleaned. So we're gonna get rid of that, we're gonna wash it, we're gonna clean it, and we're gonna assemble it. I don't see anything wrong with this carburetor. There's a little bit more here, so we're gonna wash this, and then we're gonna take apart the other one, and we will see, maybe this is the reason. The fuel that comes out is purple. Same color as that sediment, you know? Oops, we diluted the used oil. Okay, pretty much the same story here. This is where the jet is sucking from, so hopefully by cleaning this we're gonna solve the problem. Alright, both carburetors are now assembled back and cleaned. I actually now with the fuel pump I was able to prime it. I could hear the fuel coming as I was priming it manually, so probably before nothing was happening because both float bowls were full. So anyways, now it primed itself, so let's see. I am going crazy. Honestly, what else could it be? So, ignition 100% is correct. Timing is correct. What about cam timing? Huh. It's not possible that the timing somehow got skipped one tooth, right? Yeah, if the chain breaks, it breaks. It's not gonna skip one tooth. I don't think it's possible. Plus, it was running, right? At some point it started and it ran well until it cracked up again. So I'm starting to think I have a crazy idea. What if a mouse moved into the exhaust? Is that possible? Let's see if any smoke is coming out as I'm trying to start it. Alright, it's the next day and yesterday I gave up. Like, I don't know what's going on with this car. So my only solution here that I can think of is throw some new spark plugs at her and see if that's gonna work. Because it felt like when it was driving well, it just started losing cylinder by cylinder a little bit at a time. And I have the feeling that these spark plugs are not the right spark plugs for it. So I bought these. They are NGK BPR6 ES, and we'll see where we're gonna get with them. So I'm gonna change them and all right. Rusty is panting because it's smoky in the garage. Oh my god, this car just drove me crazy, but I think I finally figured it out. So what happened was, like, I stopped filming because I tried so many desperate things. Even though I measured the coil, I tried with another coil, same problem, so I put back the original. I changed the spark plug wires with brand new set, same problem, so I put back the original ones. I checked the points multiple times, they were closing and opening properly, everything seemed to be fine, but I decided also to go ahead and change the whole distributor. So I put my GT6 distributor, which I've never tested before actually. The car is still under construction over there. So anyway, I put my GT6 distributor, and sure enough, look what happens. Look at that. Like, what the heck? So go figure. So go figure what's going on. Honestly, I don't understand. So let me show you the distributor. So here is the original distributor from the car, and I'm starting to think that this little wire here is the culprit. Somehow it's grounding, I guess. I'm thinking it's either this wire or the condenser went bad. Even though the owner said that it's a new condenser, the points look okay, the gap is good, but we're gonna have to figure it out. But anyways, finally we were able to narrow down the problem to the distributor. Now we can go from there and figure out what's wrong with it. But before that, let's go for another test drive, just to make sure that this is not, again, a quick fix that is gonna go away. I mean, you know how it fixed itself before and then it came back. Okay, she drives well. The cable for the tachometer is not connected. No overdrive. Yeah, she drives great. I think it needs timing because I just set it to 4 degrees before top dead center, the static timing, but it looks like it needs to be advanced a little bit. But that doesn't matter because we're gonna be changing the distributor again, right? Drives great. Yep, she drives great. I went on a drive around the block, maybe about 5 kilometers, and it is just keep driving. Doesn't matter what you do. So obviously the stupid distributor was my problem. So let's look at it closely and figure out what could possibly be the problem. Do you think the condenser went bad? Let's see if it is assembled correctly, which so far so good. There's the insulator here, and this wire, even though it is not insulated perfectly, it looks good. Is it possible that this wire somehow lost connection here? I don't think so, because we tested with the test light so many times, right? But you never know. Is this ground not good? I don't know. Let's take it apart completely. Let's see what the points look like. The gap was good, by the way, you know, you see, it was... I measured it, it's 15 thou, so it all looks good. Could it be grounding here somehow? No, it's not grounding anywhere. Well, I suggest let's change the points and the condenser just in case they're not expensive, and we're gonna test it again. Well, now that we're here, let's go all the way and check everything, even the mechanical advance underneath. Here, everything seems to be moving normally. Springs are springing. Okay, looks good there. We're just gonna I think that's way too much play. So we have play here on the whole shaft, which I think is normal, but if we hold the shaft here, look, we have a play between the shaft and this, I don't know what it's called, but the part with the weights. So what I think happens is this needs to stay up like that, and then the gap between the rotor and the distributor cap is smaller, but when it goes down, then we have a bigger gap here. So I think that's our issue. Okay, let's take it apart. You know what? I have another distributor here. I'm gonna take it apart to see if there's something in between these two parts. I have the feeling something is missing. I don't think there's anything here as well. Okay, so when you look inside here, when the cam goes all the way down, so that's my rusty distributor. When it goes all the way down, the shaft protrudes very little, so this way the screw can be tightened, but still there's gonna be, this motion is gonna be available, right? Because we need the cam to be able to be moved by the weights underneath. But on the other distributor, let me show you on this one, but on this distributor, look how much it protrudes, a lot more. So when the screw is tight, it allows it to play a lot inside. And again, the problem is that I believe the rotor goes way too low, this rotor, because the cam goes way too low. So we have to figure out some spacer for here. So if we come back to this rusty distributor, now that I lubricated it, let's tighten the screw and see how much play it has, because before it wasn't even turning. So now tightened it. It can still move. Look, there's no play up and down. There's very little play up and down. Okay, so you know what, let's try with this. I'm gonna try with this cam on the other distributor and see what's gonna happen there, because we don't know whether the cam whether the bottom of the cam is worn or the shaft here on the original distributor. So don't get confused. This is my rusty one, you see, with the damaged thing. So this is the distributor that came from the car, and this is the cam from the rusty distributor. It says here 13 degrees. What does it say here? 13 as well. Yeah, that's much less. So the cam is worn. Well, then I think I'm just gonna keep this cam here. And this is normally how close the rotor goes to the contact on the distributor cap. So a little bit off changes everything, right? This is just like the gap on the spark plug. It needs to be exactly 25 thou, and it is important how big the gap there is. Same way, it is important how big the gap is here, right? Okay, everything is assembled with the original components here now. The distributor that's from this car, the cap, the wires, and the coil. Everything that we changed to test, now it's back on the car. So let's see. So moment of truth. I don't want to lose my light. No. Again. Five, three, six, two, four. Okay. All right, then we're gonna change the points and the condenser.
Thousands of tears later.
Alright, so I save you a lot of hassle here. I got so frustrated with this issue that, I don't know, I got desperate. I started changing parts in the distributor just randomly, just to see which part of the distributor is the part that is failing. And honestly, it's unbelievable, but I changed everything and still this distributor, the original distributor of the car, didn't run. I changed the condenser, I changed the points, I changed even the whole plate, this plate. I changed the weights, I changed the cams, I changed the rotor, I changed the cap, I changed the cables. Nothing made the car work with the original distributor. And a few times I even replaced the distributor again with my GT6 distributor, and every time I put this on, it just works no problem. So I really don't understand what is going on. Finally, I dug into my spare parts and I found a distributor body that I could replace, like just a body like this. I was gonna put this one, which is also from my stash, but it has a big crack here, and I wasn't able to remove this pin from here, so I can replace the vacuum unit. Even though the vacuum unit, this is the original distributor, this vacuum unit doesn't work, but I can just put a cracked one there, right? So this distributor body wasn't gonna be a good solution. But in my spare parts, I found this one, which was just the body of the distributor, and I took all the internals, everything, starting from the weights. Actually, that's everything other than this body. Everything I took from this distributor. So this is the original distributor of the car. So I took the weights, the cam, not the one that I replaced, the original cam from this distributor I took and put in my spare one. So weights, cam, the screw, the plate, the points, the condenser, the rotor, and everything. And the new body, or the spare body that I had with all the internals from the original distributor, runs like a charm. So I don't know. I even replaced this wire earlier with the original distributor. It didn't work. So I don't know. Honestly, you tell me. If somebody has some idea, let me know what you think, but I just went crazy. The problem is somewhere in this body. What could that possibly be? I don't know. So with this original distributor and everything assembled, I checked sparks on all cylinders separately. I took these guys and I put them on my on the spark plugs. Each and every spark plug was getting a spark as I was cranking it. I even took a spark plug and put it in each of the wires individually, put it on the negative of the battery, and I cranked. Each and every cylinder was getting a spark. The timing was correct, but the car just wouldn't start and wouldn't even try to start. Wasn't even like trying to run on 2 or 3 cylinders or whatever. Nope, it wasn't even trying to start. And right now, somehow, with a new body, it works. So everything else is the original of the car, except the body. So you tell me, I am at a loss here. It's not very often, but it happens that I can't figure out the problem. I'm thinking whether this has a good ground, but I even tried at some point. I put my jumper wires directly to the distributor, from the battery to the distributor here, to make sure that the body is grounded well. Still didn't work, so I've no idea. I honestly don't have an idea. What could possibly go wrong here? So when you're turning the engine manually, or even when you're cranking it, everything works as it should, but the car wouldn't start. What could possibly be the reason with this distributor? The dog here was engaged properly with the drive gear. The rotor was spinning normally. There was nothing. I don't know. Honestly, I am at a loss. So anyways, I think that's gonna be it. I still have to put the commutator cable, and then I'm gonna just try to tune up a little bit the car, even though it runs great, but we will see the mixture and everything. But I just threw this distributor there, set the static timing at 4 degrees before top dead center, and it just runs fantastic. Anyway, I'm not really proud of this job because I solved the problem without solving it, you know what I mean? I just replaced the part, but I couldn't figure out what the problem with the original part is. At least if I could say, well, this old body was not working well, so that's why I replaced it. I can't say what the problem was. I just know that this distributor body has a problem. Anyways, I'm rambling, but I'm really upset because I spent so much time on this car. I solved it somehow, but I don't know how, and that's usually not me. Anyways, like I said, I'm not proud of this job, but I'm gonna post it anyways, because maybe some of you will be able to tell me what could possibly be wrong with that distributor body, so the car doesn't work with it. Anyways, that's gonna be it for today, guys. I'm sorry for the last 2-3 minutes of rambling, but I just wanted to tell you what was going on here. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for commenting and subscribing and sharing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, where are you going? There's more to it. This car was full of mysteries, so it didn't end there. I had another problem and I didn't film it because I solved it quickly, but it was another one of these that drove me crazy. I test drove the car, it was fantastic, and then I cleaned it and I was like, okay, I just need to put the air cleaners on and it's done. And I put the air cleaners and it starts running like a crap again, this car. So I took the air cleaners out again to see what was going on with the carbs, and they ran great. So I realized that something on the air cleaners was not okay. So I looked at the gaskets, and sure enough, one of the gaskets didn't have a hole for the breather. I believe this is for the starter box, or as known as a choke on these carburetors. So I made a hole there, I put the cleaners on, and that fixed it. So that problem got fixed pretty fast, but can you believe it? It was just didn't want to go away, this car. She just liked it in my garage. But after that, it got picked up, and the owner said that it was driving great after that when he took it home. So I'm glad that it was done. I'm just super annoyed by the fact that I don't know what exactly is wrong with this distributor. So if you can help me figure it out, that would be great. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.